Thank you so much, Dean Silva Perez and Dr. Knox and the entire uh, faculty, staff, all of our friends and colleagues and all the students. Everybody's sort of chiming in today and tuning in today. The School of Professional Studies. Thank you, thank you, thank you for this opportunity to come and to converse with you and the students and our guests today on this really exciting topic. I appreciate the introduction, and I'm certainly happy to be here. It is also great to be here presenting with our presenters, who you will hear from later, particularly Dr. SherRhonda Gibbs, an amazing scholar and educator and leader in this field. I've been tasked to discuss the broad role of entrepreneurship in society and the economy as a whole from a practitioner standpoint. I have spent my entire career, as mentioned, working with entrepreneurs, creating systems that facilitate ingenuity, creativity, and growth, while also advancing equity and fighting systems that stifle ingenuity and the entrepreneurial spirit. So after working with several thousands of entrepreneurs over the years, small and large businesses, majority, minority, women-owned businesses, immigrant-owned businesses and firms, and leading the city's two primary agencies to deliver entrepreneurial services, the Mayor's Office of MWBEs, which I founded, and the Department of Small Business Services. There are several key points and trends sort of want to leave with you all today as it pertains to entrepreneurship and societal impact and economies. Furthermore, as my own experience as an immigrant, as a Black entrepreneur, and how sort of that has influenced the way I executed my policy work and ultimately the programs and services at those various agencies, both at the city and state and in the private sector. In this talk, I hope to briefly touch on the role of entrepreneurship in society, as mentioned, the relation between entrepreneurship and economic growth, briefly explore SMEs and innovation-driven enterprises, talk briefly about entrepreneurship, the government's role in support of entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship in times of crisis, like we're experiencing now, but most importantly, to have some time, hopefully, to engage with your questions later. When I think of entrepreneurs and the rare roles in society, I think of those individuals who seek to start a business, to solve a problem, individuals seeking to add value to the economic system. They carefully analyze risk and, as a business, seek to grow and make a profit. This activity, in many cases, does not happen in a vacuum, no matter what anyone says. The notion that an idea by itself can produce a successful venture, or an individual with a great idea can single-handedly go from ideation to launch and success without the interaction, in many cases, the infusion of support of an ecosystem built to encourage and undergird the entrepreneurial spirit of innovation and calculated risk-taking, really ignores the reality that successful entrepreneurs, small or the occasional unicorns like Facebook, Uber, and the like, benefited from what I call the collective. That's the ecosystem made up of government action or inaction, financial systems, their preferences and risk tolerances, biases and history, the various support services available to entrepreneurs, our educational systems like CUNY, and even our K through 12 programs, workforce development programs, infrastructure such as broadband and transportation, also other businesses and many others that directly or indirectly support the ability of that one entrepreneur to be successful. It is a collective. The entrepreneur, therefore, plays a significant role in society, not by themselves, but as a collective. They play a significant role. Their ability to see a problem, to imagine a solution, to drive implementation, to bring these products, these solutions to market is invaluable. The entrepreneur is an essential part of creating a sustainable and prosperous society. Just about every amenity, from how we get our electricity to our handheld computers, and also known as smartphones, to the food we eat, the way we bank, the way we stay healthy. Entrepreneurs also really inspire other entrepreneurs, building this ecosystem of businesses to support each other in their respective sectors, all working towards a successful venture. Entrepreneurs are drivers of economic growth and stability. They produce jobs, tax revenue for local governments, create efficiencies, new products, and new ways of doing things. Their innovation propels change that allows for the people, government, and private industry to flourish. Generally, when you think of an entrepreneur, you think of someone starting a business. We don't think of all the details such as scale, scope, level of innovation, risk, or impact that one business would have on the economy or the communities in which they serve or reside. Bill Elliott of the Martin Trust Center for Entrepreneurship at MIT distinguishes two types of entrepreneurs. First is an SME, or a small medium enterprise. That's our local restaurants, small retail businesses, the IT firms, the construction firms, the beauty firms, that speaks to the local market providing the service that is needed. Many of us have our favorite sort of SME that we go to. I know I have my one barbershop I go to, and really don't veer from there. We have our favorite restaurant that we go to. Those are all great, but those are small, medium enterprises. They tend to see faster return from investments, meaning that there's an immediate return because they're getting customers to walk in the door. They have a product they put to market, and we're engaging in that process, but are generally capped for growth, okay? New York City has about 240,000 of these types of small businesses. About 85% of them have 10 employees or less, okay? So those are small, medium enterprises. Secondarily, we have, as he mentions, innovation-driven enterprises. Now, they're different. They operate in the global markets, generally don't see the returns for some time. They're in high growth sectors and require high levels of innovation. And some are considered market disruptors. 40 million plus jobs have been created of these types of companies with global impact over the past few decades. Tech startups in particular, like Twitter, Airbnb, Netflix, Facebook, Google, Uber, all of these sort of fit into that category. But there's another type of entrepreneur that I just want to touch on, which we're seeing such massive growth in, solopreneurs. As solopreneurs, we're seeing them grow not only locally, but across the country, particularly with women of color. And the solopreneurs are entrepreneurs who work independently and have no employees at all or team members. They tend to be service-based businesses like consultants and so forth. There's about 42 million in the United States and about 1 million in New York State alone. These, both the SMEs, the small, medium enterprises, the innovation-driven enterprise, those are the sort of massive firms that those unicorns we talk about, or those types of businesses that seek to go into global markets, not just local or state or regional markets. And then the solopreneurs not only contribute, they don't only contribute to our economy and are necessary for sustainable and innovative growth, they all in some way rely on resources and policy decisions made by government, both on this national, state, and local level. Just a word on entrepreneurship. Over 70% of Americans say they would prefer to work for themselves. Can you believe that? 70%, according to a Federal Reserve survey. But not everyone can or really truly desires to follow through in becoming an entrepreneur. So we have a lot of folks who want to be entrepreneurs, but not everybody wants to follow through on being an entrepreneur. However, the same concepts as the dean mentioned and the general principles of entrepreneurship can be applied within an organization. And that is entrepreneurship. It is where a new innovation or product or even another company is developed within an existing company. Facebook hackathon sessions produced the like button that we all use now, that feature. While Lockheed Martin's advanced development programs created some of the most innovative aircrafts known to man. 3M, scientists created the Post-it. Google creating the Gmail. Companies seeking to do only survive, seeking to do just only what they do. Oh, they barely survive, but they don't thrive. We must embrace entrepreneurship. So that's, you have to find individuals within your firm, your company, who have an entrepreneurship mind. You have to create the atmosphere and space within your company for those businesses, for those individuals to create those businesses and those ideas. And you've got to give room for them to do so. Google has a 20% model where they set aside 20% of their time to just think about ideas and do idea building, come together and brainstorm about what should we be doing next? What are the things that needs to happen? And that's how you keep growing. That's how you survive. And that's how you go forth. But as you think about entrepreneurship, and as I mentioned, government policy and supports play an important role in entrepreneurship and ultimately the health and wealth of our economy. Again, the role government plays is big. We play a big role. Government also supports our economy, how wealth is created in our economy and society as a whole. These policies, government policies and policies that can help us, they can hurt us, okay? They can help growth or they can stem growth. And it is very important as policymakers, we understand how those decisions that we make affect the marketplace and ultimately affect jobs and ultimately affect families. And I think that's where we want to bring this down to. It's not just the broader picture about sort of the theoretical operation of what it means to be an entrepreneur, but it's also the practical application of what it means. You creating jobs. People need to work to fulfill their dreams, their passions, and take care of their families. And that's why it's important for government to support it. Government and policymakers really provide supports for businesses to launch, foster innovation. They promote a strong equity agenda. They provide targeted tax breaks, subsidies, and research and development grants. The government target industries and particular neighborhoods with financial assistance for revitalization and supports the infrastructure ecosystem for entrepreneurship, which is very important. Policies around intellectual property, patents, trademarks, all encourage entrepreneurship. Government policies include laws and regulations that lowers costs to start and launch a business and create efficiencies in permitting and licensing that target the speed in which businesses are launched while supporting growth. For instance, the Department of Small Business Services, which I had the honor to lead, work with thousands of entrepreneurs and businesses every year to launch a suite of services while advocating with other agencies to create operating efficiencies to lower the cost and increase revenue for those businesses. SBS also works with over 100,000 workers annually in training and connecting them to jobs and businesses and the businesses to workers in our 18 Workforce One centers across the city. The New York City Economic Development Corporation provides low-cost real estate, innovation centers, grants to startups in high-growth sectors like life sciences, manage the city's economic development incentive programs, and innovate sector-specific initiatives. And that's very, very important. The Mayor's Office, MWBE, which I founded under the previous administration, work with minority and women-owned businesses to get government and private sector contracts valued in the billions every year. In times of crisis, such as war, economic downturn, or a pandemic like we're in now, entrepreneurs play a vital role in developing new products and services necessary to navigate the crisis, but also through innovation, create products and solutions that are sustainable, benefiting us long after the crisis subsides. At times, this process is done in concert with government and policymakers. It forms what we call a unique public-private partnership. For instance, the CDC expedited timeline for development and rollout of COVID-19 vaccine. This included vaccine development, clinical trials, US Food and Drug Administration authorization, and approval, manufacturing and distribution of all significant partnerships with private sector entities. Congress, through the Small Business Administration, where our dean previously worked, issued loans and grant programs, the PPP program, the EIDL program, to sustain existing businesses and low-cost financial products to those entrepreneurs seeking to launch during the pandemic. Federal monetary policy administered by the Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department shifted as the feds held rates and infused liquidity to shore up markets. New York City Economic Development Corporation facilitated local production of face shields, 8.4 million of them, hospital gowns, 4.2 million, and breathing assistance machines designed, manufactured here locally, right, during the crisis. The federal government approved it in a month, which is unprecedented, by the way. They also manufactured and assembled over 1 million testing kits and collaborated with industry to perform 30,000 tests per day. That is huge, right? When you're in a crisis. This entrepreneur spirit is sort of birthed, and we see it come to bear right now in this crisis that we're in. At SPS, we created and expanded 51 new programs and initiatives during COVID, including $700 million plus in grants and low interest loans with a focus on LMI, or low to moderate income communities. Also, over 1.2 billion in contracts to MWBEs. Innovations such as the open restaurant program, which everybody enjoys now, right? That's an innovation that came out of a crisis. That was not a part of the city's workflow. We had a long process in order for you to get what is called a sidewalk cafe. It turned in that we had to really move fast. We had to do something innovative. We had to keep people safe. We had to bring them outside. And so we created the open restaurants program, where you see now our restaurants are able to, at no cost to them, really open up on the sidewalk and be able to utilize the space there and on the streets as well. So it's sort of rethinking how we do utilize our public spaces. And then we launched an $11 million, what we call Quick Start program, to cut red tape, right? And creating efficiencies for entrepreneurs interacting with the government. Government, particularly in times of crisis, are facilitators of entrepreneurial ventures and continue to be pivotal on how markets respond and recover. As it pertains to trends, we know globalization continues to be a significant variable. Entrepreneurs are not only competing against companies in their own sort of communities, state, or even here in the US, but against companies all over the world. Entrepreneurs, particularly innovation-driven, as we discussed before, must continue to strengthen their competitiveness to increase market share. Hot sectors like green jobs, tech, life sciences, biotech, e-commerce, healthcare, with subsectors such as femtech industry, which is a budgeted industry now that's growing. The space economy is expected also to double to 900 billion by 2030, according to the Wall Street Journal, as companies are developing new space technologies. In addition, NASA has contracted to develop a first of its kind commercial space station that will facilitate research, plant growth, and astronaut activity in space. And there's a plethora of businesses that are going to be built because of this particular venture that NASA has. The health innovation sector leads the way, really, with the healthcare making up 17% of our GDP now, up significantly from previous years. The patent office had granted over 60,000 health patents since 2013. I mean, an increase in biotech firms collaborating with pharma, an increase in innovation and innovative uses, of AI to expedite and expand R&D. So we're seeing this growth and diversification, innovation in the marketplace, which is so critical. These trends will lead us to believe that even in these crises that we're in right now, entrepreneurship is not slowing down, but rather quite the contrary. As I close this portion of the presentation, and as we think of entrepreneurship here in New York City and across the country, one cannot really escape the obvious diversity gaps and challenges entrepreneurs of color, immigrant entrepreneurs, and women-owned firms face. Businesses owned by immigrants make up half of the entrepreneurs in the city, yet they face challenges to access to capital and networks. By the way, in Fortune 500 companies, half of them are either ran by immigrants or children of immigrants. Women entrepreneurs receive, by the way, only 2.3% of VC funded. That's a problem. Black women entrepreneurs receive 0.6% of funding from VCs. Black and brown firms are more likely to be denied a loan, studies show. Underutilization of MWBEs, minority women-owned business enterprises in government contracting, still there. The lack of access to innovation, space and hubs for these businesses, entrepreneurship, mentorship, training, all is still lacking. So we've got a lot of work to do. The impact from the pandemic still lingers as minority businesses are closing at faster rates than other types of businesses. 41%, particularly closures, if you think about Black businesses, 41% of businesses across the country closed during the pandemic. That's higher than any other group. Yet the bright side is we are seeing a tremendous amount of solopreneurs and entrepreneurs forming businesses at this time. At one point, we saw about 4 times the rate as we've seen before. There continues really to be an increase in the racial wealth gap and those challenges and lack of generational wealth transferred in communities of color, in large part due to the lack of support for minority entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, and immigrant entrepreneurs. The systems that prevent them from succeeding are there and are prevalent. Our way forward must be one of equity and fairness. Resources need to be made available to these entrepreneurs, financial institutions, and they need to reconsider really how they assess risk. That's big for our financial institutions. In order for these entrepreneurs to be successful, they need to reassess how they assess risks or consider risk. Government and policymakers must continue to do their part in leveling the playing field, removing structural barriers to entry, and promoting equitable policies and market transparency and accountability. I hypothesize in my closing that entrepreneurship is one of the few ways to significantly reduce the racial wealth gap and address the economic disparities across our city and nation. Therefore, it is significant that this conference and others like it are shedding light on these challenges and presenting solutions and ways to support diverse entrepreneurship. Thank you all, and really look forward to our discussion today.
Thank you, Jonnel. Thank you for a comprehensive look into not only the entrepreneur's role in society, but also society's role in creating those entrepreneurs. I think that's something that's often gets overlooked.